Hey gang, so a bit more of an informal reactionary post YouTube video thing today, but as I'm sure every keen Age of Sigmar player knows, today is Battle Scroll Day. So I'm just gonna kind of go through, give some thoughts. This came out like, I don't know, 6 hours ago or something. I've had some time to digest it, talked about it with some people that I trust about the game. I'm gonna just kind of give out some opinions. So yeah, I think I'm going to do just kind of hot takes, knee jerks and stuff through like the battle profiles. I'll talk in depth about the factions I know a bit more about. And then we'll go into the rules changes. Some of them are pretty significant, I think, and could have a pretty large impact on the way that the meta shapes up. So yeah, let's get started. So just going to kick it off with cities. The really important one here, I think, for me is Callus and Toll. No changes to their points cost. This is also true for the Regiment of Renown, which to me that's crazy. That unit is absolutely insane. Just mental how good this unit is, but hey-oh. Then otherwise, like all the kind of, I don't know, non-free guild stuff, basically, like all this shit, like, I'm sorry, but it just shouldn't be in the game. Like the black, these Dark Elf fishermen from 1986 or whatever, I don't care. Please don't make these models better. Don't make people buy these models so that they then become invalid. It's just not cool. So yeah. Anyway, these are really good. That's the only one that I really want to be relevant. No changes as far as I can tell to like the kind of normal, actual kind of like pushed cities line. I think, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, cool. I guess maybe some people with Warhammer Fantasy armies will be happy about that. Daughters. So Crethusa down is nice. That model is really good. She has a very strong ability. The ability to move in the hero phase, obviously very, very powerful. After Arcane down is pretty nice. And this is a significant points drop as well. Pretty cool. Kinnerai. This unit still sucks, but I guess you can still take them and it's fine, right? I don't know. I feel like Kinnerai are a unit where if you're taking two of them, having them be cheaper is nice. Since the nerf to this unit of Kinnerai, you're probably taking Life Takers anyway if you want to do this. But I also feel like the Otters are an army where, like, now that Cruel Delight doesn't exist, the onus to take Kinnerai is much lower. Like, you don't get a free tactic for Kinnerai. I guess they kind of help you do Reclaim the Realms, but you're not reliably doing that. And Deep Strike units aren't good for that compared to units like Riverblades or whatever, where you can just choose to do it on any turn of the game where the unit's alive, as opposed to having to hold them in reserve until you choose to do the tactic. So don't love that so much, but Sisters of Slaughter and Witch Elves down is nice. The armies that took these usually took multiple units, so over the course of an entire army, you may end up seeing in excess of like 100, maybe even more points in your list. So definitely a nice little buff to Daughters, but I don't think it's going to fix their kind of fundamental issues and suddenly make them like a kind of dominant meta force. But if you're playing like Witch Elf Daughters, then obviously this is a nice change. Fire Slayers? Okay, so I'll be honest with you. Every single one of these models is the same guy, and you can't convince me otherwise. The ones that I do know what they do, this model's still too expensive. This model's actually kind of cute. Not awful. The problem with the Grimhold, as far as I understand it, is that he costs a drop as well. If you had this a similar kind of rule to the Doomseeker, then that would maybe be nice. Or the Grimwrath, right? Battlesmith has still been absolutely gutted since his old self, his old 4-up spell denying self, and his new rallying rules are not nearly as good as 4-up rally was, so, cool, I guess. That's great. The Auric Rune Sun, I genuinely don't know what this model does. Ask some kind of Fire Slayer player. The Rune Smiter on the Magmadroth, I think he was far less popular than the Rune Father on the Magmadroth. The Rune Father on the Magmadroth is way worse than he was before, and he's still too expensive and hasn't come down. To me, these kind of look like nothing changes to Fire Slayers. Fire Slayer players, correct me if I'm wrong. You're maybe gaining like 50 points at best in your list, but that's not really enough to change anything. IDK, these are good changes for IDK. This is a lot of extra points. Well, okay, no, that's not true. There are certain lists where this is a lot of extra points. The lists that people are playing, this is not a lot of extra points. Let me be kind of clear. So the turtle coming down is nice. Obviously, that's pretty free. And I think pretty much every single army I've seen, personally, has had the aspect of the storm. So that's nice for him. The soul render. God, which one is that? Let's find out. That's OBR. Let's find what a soul render is. Is he the guy that brings them back? Yeah. Okay. So this is a little bit of a buff to some Namarti strategies, I suppose, with thralls coming down. I suspect this probably still isn't quite good enough, but it can't hurt. IDK, I think, were like fine. They were a solid mid-tier army. Nothing wrong with them at all. But this probably isn't going to be enough to kind of push them into suddenly owning the meta, unless maybe there's some build that like you can fit now and it just feels like absolute value. I like that this guy went down, because I remember thinking that Lotan was quite cute for the Sharon army, because IDK can randomly build quite a powerful magic castle, but unfortunately, and we'll get there, the changes to manifestations now make that a little less good. I'm really sad whenever I see green on KO. This is the worst army in Age of Sigmar. I really, really hope that they're bad. They're not even that bad now, and that's upsetting. They are likely now better. This is concerning. This is one of the lowest kind of game agency armies I think that I've ever played against in any game ever when it's good. Obviously, as the KO player, you have quite a lot of agency, but playing against them is just absolutely miserable. And I say that fully aware that I've been playing Huracan for the past 3 months. So I don't know. I hope this isn't good, and I hope that if KO ever do become good again, they do so in a way that they're more engaging to play against. Okay, LRL changes. This is mostly a nothing change. I don't understand why this guy got cheaper, when in my mind this is a better model than this. So that's weird. I guess maybe people have just been absolutely farming mid tables and stuff with I don't know, Enlighteners and Blade Lords and stuff, where you're killing people with a 4-up unrendable army or something. I don't know. Caligrave up is fine, but this model is still a must take if you're not playing Tackless. This 10 points could easily have been 20, I think. Cathlar down to 100 is actually really nice. This model is kind of sucks, but doesn't fix the core problem that this model has, which is actually this. Same problem that all Sonari have, is what you can take in the regiments. I don't understand this. I don't think this model was good enough to really get played consistently anyway, so go off. This isn't even remotely close enough. A good way to make this model more compelling would be, again, to change this. If there's a way that you could take some form of Sonari that had good regiment options, that would be quite interesting from a list design point of view. This is vexing. This model is already the best small mage that you can take in LRL. I don't understand this. Huracan up 10. Okay, this is a model that you only ever really take 1 or 2 of, in my opinion, so sure. Not that big an increase. Windcharger's up 20. That is significant. That's the big nerf, I think, of this. Windchargers, for my money, probably one of the best units in LRL. The other best unit in LRL also went up 20 points. Honestly, fair enough. This army was just too good. I don't think that there's a way to really nerf LRL rules-wise. Maybe you could hit Riverblades specifically, but otherwise I think you would probably need to redesign them. So I think fairly heavy points changes are totally justified. Ballista is still completely fucking awful, but maybe it'll get into a list now when you don't want to add a drop for adding a Cathalar, but can afford a Ballista. But even then, I feel like you could probably just rewrite your list to put anything else in instead. Dawn Rider's up 20. I don't care. I think that this unit's overrated. I'll die on that hill. They're fine. They're worse now. Hopefully people will stop playing them because they're not very good against good players. I guess if you want to just consistently be a kind of 3-2-4-1 guy and crush people that don't tag your cavalry, that don't have retreat and charge, and their damage goes down to a third, or worse than a third, a quarter or something, if they don't get to charge, then go off. This is confusing. Wardens and Blade Lords were both too expensive. Wardens were definitely too expensive. This unit could be quite a bit cheaper. And Blade Lords were probably about right. Maybe they could have... Yeah, they were probably about right. But they needed to be built around, right? You needed an army built around making them function. Now Blade Lords are more expensive than Wardens, but that's not... I guess that's not a great way to make Wardens more compelling. This unit still sucks. This unit's still not very good. It's kind of okay. I think LRL will be completely fine. I think they're still going to be one of the top armies in the game. This reminds me a lot of the first Soulblight nerf, where it was okay, the army lost 150 points or something. It's not close to enough. Still going to be very strong. Seraphon. Okay, so there's a lot more green than I was expecting here. I don't know if Games Workshop know that Seraphon are good. Obviously, Croak buffs we're sad about because we never want that model to be good. Fuck Croak. This stuff, as far as I know from my Seraphon playing friends, this is these are non-changes. Doesn't really matter. The Star Seer going up, fine, but again, this is the model you're taking one of, so it's a very small change. Then here, Agrodon Lancers up 10. Does kind of matter for the Agrodon style lists, yep. But one of the things that I think is really confusing is Croxagars are really good, and they didn't get touched. So I think that this makes the decision point between Agrodons and Croxagars easier, and if you have the kind of spare points to still play it, you can maybe play like a unit of Agrodons and then fill with Croxagars and things. The Hunters of Huanxi with Starborn Bolus not going up is an absolute crime. This unit is crazy. That's weird. So yeah, I think Seraphon are going to be really good. I don't think this will push them quite into the kind of S tier that like Nighthaunt and stuff were, obviously, relative to the rest of the game. But I think they'll continue to be an A tier army. They're completely fine. As far as I'm told from people that actually play Seraphon, they just have some quite bad matchups, and there's not that much in the book that you can do to play around them. So take that with a pinch of salt, though, because it's not something that I know for myself. I'm just parroting secondhand information. Stormcast, this is please play Ionis. We brought out this cool new model, and we want him to be good. Better way to do that would be to change his rules. I think he's not awful, right? But he's not great. It's fine. So a lot of these Stormcast units, I would need to phone in some kind of Stormcast scientist to tell me like what most of this stuff does and if it's any good and so on and so forth. I don't know. One of the things that I do quite like here is that Neve went down. This is already quite a good model. There's some really cute tech that you can do with this unit, where you can have her go in, fight. On a 3-up, she pulls to be 3.1 away from the thing that she charged and fought. And then that thing doesn't get to fight because it's no longer in combat, and then she gets to fight again because she charged that turn, and basically you get to hit something twice before it gets to hit you. And if it's a hero, like an enemy, I don't know, like Manfred or something, she just does a ridiculous amount of damage to characters. So very powerful there, I think. What else do we have? Yeah. As far as I know, and again, this is just talking to... I did not mean to do that. Talking to friends and stuff. This is, like... These are nice changes if you're, like, a cool Timmy that wants to play as dragons and things, but none of the meat and potatoes of Stormcast really got changed in a significant way. The Paladors and stuff, or I think it's Paladors, these lads, these are all the same cost. These are the same cost, so it's kind of just a wash. They'll be fine, but they're not going to be great. Sylvaneth points changes, not really relevant. Doesn't really matter as far as I'm aware. And like the meta build or whatever, it's like, okay, plus 20. Sure. However, they got some really nice changes in the rules changes. We'll get there later. I don't think that this army should be legally playable if they're getting rid of it, because it encourages players that don't know better to buy into it, and then their army will become invalid. It is nice that it says this here, but I still think that selling this in the range at all will lead to people who want to get into the game and don't know better buying these models. So I don't know, I think the whole kind of practice is a bit mean, but I guess it's a nice little farewell to people that already have Beasts of Chaos. I don't know, whatever. Sure, I don't care, I'll be honest with you. Beasts of Chaos are already quite good. They'll probably be even better now. They got some points changes. I heard some people talking about Dragon Ogres. Maybe they're fine. So Khorne's an army that I actually play and I've been like dabbling with and looking at a reasonable amount. So basically the problem with this change is pretty much all of your support staff got cheaper, right? This is actually a pretty good model, the Aspiring Deathbringer. There's nothing wrong with this guy. Bloodsecrator kind of sucks now, but I think that if you're playing an all Bloodbound list, you could maybe justify it, but generally I probably wouldn't bother. Bloodstoker, good model, goes in a lot of lists. Fine. 10 points is 10 points. Karanak kind of sucks now. Exhausted Deathbringer kind of sucks. Mate Lord of Khorne is cool because he lets you take a lot of heroes in his regiment, which is neat. Good priest, down points. So that's fine. Nothing wrong with having a cheaper priest, I suppose. Scarbrand, still too expensive. Bloodthirsters in general didn't go down, still kind of crazily expensive. It is insane to me that this model is 470 points. It's like 100 points more expensive than a Lord of Change. That blows my mind. Don't understand it. Scar Bloodwrath down, he's still a good model, just costs a drop. That's the real problem with this model. If he had like this hero can join a regiment as a warmonger or whatever, that would be a massive buff to Scar. This model's kind of cute, but not very good. Similar, cute, not very good. And then Skulltaker, I think, is actually an alright model. He's fine. It's just, he's 140 points, and I know it's kind of a lot, but I don't hate Skulltaker. I think this is quite nice. Maybe you'll see this guy in some lists. The problem I have with the Khorne changes are this. none of your main units got changed. So that's crazy. Like, you're probably not playing more than 2 units of Wrathmongers, really. Maybe, probably just 1, maybe 2. And the rest of this stuff is like cute chaff. You maybe play like 2 units of Claws of Karnak. It's like a nice little change, but really, for Khorne to get better, what needed to happen was a change to this kind of stuff. Like, I think this could be like 80 or 90. This could be like 190 easily. These guys could be like 160. I think Bloodletters are just not in a great spot. So I don't know. Cool-ish changes to Khorne, but not really what they needed. Still too expensive. This is an army that, like, they used to have kind of recursion built into their army, where, you know, you kill units and they turn into Bloodletters effectively. And that meant if you took units that were of a similar value to Bloodletters, you were kind of getting, like, effective good recursion. And that's why part of why the army was so strong back in the day. Like, you know, you're either if it was like the list where you just played a kind of mixed arms of medium models, like kind of medium strength models, and they would die and turn into more medium strength models, or you would play an army that had like 3 Bloodthirsters and then a bunch of crap, and the crap would die and turn into like some Bloodletters, but not as many as the other army. It meant that you kind of had pseudo recursion. So they got rid of that recursion and ramped the points way up on all of like the entire army, and got rid of a lot of the like utility and upfront power that the army had. I just don't understand why it kind of just got triple tapped. I suppose it's just paying for the sins of being the best army at the end of 3rd edition. Hopefully more changes to come, hopefully to the kind of main units that you can build an army around. These changes are confusing, I'll be honest with you. Tzeentch, I think I would have in the shortlist as best army in the game after LRL. Before, it would be Nighthaunt, then LRL, then Tzeentch. So, I mean, this makes sense. None of these are really kind of relevant models, except for Changeling, Changecaster, Lord of Change, and then the horror units, right? So I actually think that these might be cute for 100 points. You'll maybe see like a unit with these in a list, because at the end of the day, it's 10 wins with a 4-up save, and they rally really well. 4-up ethereal save, I should say. They rally really, really well, which is cool. They don't get 9 dice rally from the Changecaster or from the Warflock thing, but still, they take rallies well. That's fine. This model, I think, is legitimately good at 120. This model was already good enough to play at 160, and now he's even cheaper. So this sort of offsets the build with horrors. Like, I had some lists that I was messing around with just to have a look. This is basically like a list I was playing before. You just cut spawn out of it, and you kind of keep the changeling. You could change things around even more if you wanted. You could like change the blues to to the pinks to blues, and change the changeling to Changecaster, and suddenly you can get your spawn back. Or you can just like cut the flamers and move some stuff around if you want. The flamers could become more blues and things like that. I think Tzeentch you'll see when they get to the rule changes, there's some rule changes as well that I think are a net buff for Tzeentch. Tzeentch are one to watch for me of like, these might be the best army in the game now. These are kind of nothing changes. This is 20 extra points to a list. This is probably 40 extra points to a list, so in total, right, if you count the fact that you're probably playing one of these models, especially with the nerf to priority target, I think it somewhat devalues Skyfires, but I could be wrong. Maybe you still play 12. But I think it's either a 60 or 40 point nerf. They definitely got off very lightly compared to the other good armies. Hedonites, these are changes to bad models, which is cool, but Bliss Barbs went up. I think even with this, these are still in the position of like having to play Bliss Barbs. Would it have killed them to make like Twin Souls 120? Or Fiends down to like 130, or Demonettes down to like 100 and stuff? Probably not, but they haven't done it, so I expect you'll still see Slaanesh with definitely 20 Bliss Barbs. Maybe you'll see 40 less. But this doesn't seem to me like enough to really bring the army up. They did change the Temptation Dice mechanic though, which is kind of cool. Only green for Nurgle, similar to Khorne. I don't think this is enough to make Nurgle good. Nurgle are an army where I think that to take good models in Nurgle, you need to go really high drop, because all of this stuff sucks. Like, everything down here is rubbish. It's really sad. Blight Lords are way too expensive for what they do. Blight Kings are way too slow / expensive. Like, comparing these guys to Brutes is just sad, and Brutes aren't even that good of a model. Rotmire Creed are absolutely awful now compared to how they used to be. Plague Bearers, I think, are actually sort of okay, but honestly, I would be completely fine if this number said like 130, maybe even 120. Plague Drones, I just don't think have the kind of... Either they lack the damage output in the current meta because of their swarm of low-round attacks, and they run into a similar problem with Feck, where like you play against an OBR player and they are literally just like the worst models on the table. Nurglings are a joke now for 100. These models are so bad compared to what they used to be. They used to be a utility piece, And if you've watched my video on Niche, you would understand that this unit got away with being quite expensive in Nurgle for what other armies kind of got almost for free, because what they did in Nurgle was really, really valuable. Now they don't do that. They're just wounds. And Nurgle has nothing but wounds. Why would you ever take these compared to Plague Bearers? It doesn't make sense. Beast of Nurgle still probably too expensive for 8 wounds. Again, wounds in Nurgle are probably the kind of currency du jour. You really need to be wounds efficient, I think, to be a compelling choice in Nurgle, or do something genuinely exceptional. Glotkin down 20 is nice. All of the Megathords and stuff going down, that's similarly nice. Confused that this didn't come down. He's 480, he's 100 points more than Lord of Change. LOL, I guess. I don't understand that. sure don't. Lord of Change has like better recursion, better rules, and is weirdly similarly durable because of the setup that you can achieve on him. So, yep, cool, great. He's also like twice as fast and has flight and a more manageable base. So I don't get that at all. Even compared to like the Keepers of Secrets, like, I mean, what's going on here? Compare the Keeper of Secrets and the kind of full package that a Keeper of Secrets does at 440 to a Great Unclean one for 480. It's madness. Anyway, sorry. I like Nurgle. I want them to be good. This model I think still stinks because they don't have good prayers. If this model had like a compelling prayer, I'd maybe be more interested. I think Gut Rot Spume's kind of cool. Him being down 20 is actually quite nice for Nurgle. Helps offset the fact that Nurglings are complete poo now, so that's neat. Nurgle might be okay, but I think if Nurgle do have a good build, it's going to be like 3-4 drops. Would be my guess. So maybe watch this space. These guys might. They also got a rules change, which I think is really nice, so that's cool. Skaven, new book, not 100% sure yet. The stuff that went down, as far as I'm aware, isn't particularly competitive except for Clan Rats. Clan Rats coming down is obviously nice for this army. So we'll maybe see some cool things from Skaven. I think Skaven are probably in a position where, like, with another kind of set of... If, like, the top stuff gets nerfed again in the next Battle Scroll and Skaven get another set of buffs, they will probably be a very competitive army. I think they've got a lot of kind of cool models. They have very strong rules. 3 class steps ahead is, like, one of the best rules in the game. It's just insane how strong that rule is. So they're kind of just points away, I think, from being competitive. They're also an army that's kind of like Lumineth, where like their range is really big and they can do a lot of different things in the faction. You can build melee stuff, you can take range stuff, you can take magic stuff, you can take prayer stuff, you can take stuff that's meant to be somewhat durable. So, you know, there's definitely some stuff kind of going on there in Skaven. You can build into like a lot of different metas. I think they're very flexible. It's just they're maybe a few points tweaks away from being really, really powerful. So, you know, cool. Hope to see some cool things out of Skaven. I'm sure people will find some stuff. Slaves changes? Okay, so I think we all saw this one coming. That's fine. These aren't real models. Demon Prince going up. Okay, 10 points. Usually you're only taking one anyway, so, you know. Cool, not real models. Don't really care. This little regiment I think is quite cute. But 10 points, Chosen up 10 points, okay. Fury's up 10 points, this actually kind of hurts. Both of these together kind of hurts. This is like, see, all of this added in, it's like, okay, you've lost like 100 points. And in Slaves to Darkness, that probably means you're losing like, you know, Furies or something, which kind of sucks, because a lot of Slaves to Darkness lists are really like thin to the ground anyway. But I know that this army's been absolutely rinsing people in the kind of mid-tables, and I suspect that's why they're getting nerfed. The fact that Chosen and Vanguard kind of both went up means that there's sort of nowhere to go now. You're just going to, you know, have to probably play a unit down from what you were used to, like a small unit. So that kind of sucks, I think, for Slaves to Darkness players. I'd be keen to see how the Archaeon build ends up doing. That's one of the armies that I'm the most interested in, I think, in the game. As potential to be like something really meta-warping. So we'll kind of see, but losing a unit might be too much for that army. I mean, what would it lose? I think it's 2 units of Furies and... like a reinforced unit Chosen, so that would be 40 points, which I think that means that you are dropping like the unit of Raptorix or unit of Furies or something from the list, and there's not really much you can do to recover it. So maybe that's enough to kind of stop that army being really good, because that actually kind of matters. It makes your tactics a lot harder, or keeping bodyguards near Archaeon a lot harder. We'll see. Fact changes. I mean, okay, so I have a weird opinion on FAC, right? I think the Cardinal going up 10 is honestly probably valid, because this model is insane. Like, for what this model does to FAC, it's absolutely crazy. But I think that Feck need changes. I just actually don't think that the changes Feck need can be achieved through points. I think this army's killing power actually needs to go up. They're in a really weird spot where Feck will absolutely murder armies that have like a 5 or a 4 up save. But as soon as you start getting into the 3 up range, and like they will really struggle. And if you're like OBR with Catacross, they just can't kill you. And similarly, they have this weird thing of like if you're playing an army that can't fully destroy a unit of 6 Morbeg Knights, you can't beat Feck. Because with what's it called, Lords of the Manor, they will be able to fully recur that unit. As in, if you leave one alive, they will be able to go back up to 6 very easily by the time it's your next turn. So there's this sort of weird thing here where like this army completely bounces off of certain armies, and also certain armies completely bounce off of it. It's sort of similar to where Nurgle were last edition, where like Nurgle will just eat every other melee army in the game alive because of how powerful the Bile Piper is, especially if you could play it in combination with the Glockkin against melee armies. But against armies that don't care about that, you just, you were useless. So I think Feck needs some kind of changes where maybe make it through like their spells or the prayers, they have access to more rend, or maybe put that on like some, like the Decapitator, that would be a cool rule for that guy, right? Just have some kind of extra rend access in the faction. But equally, I would also change Lords of the Manor to not be like such a hard DPS check that several factions in the game just can't meet. Nighthaunt, okay, so at first I was like, oh, this is actually a little bit gentle. This is gentler than I thought it would be. Considering how ridiculously efficient Nighthaunt War Scrolls are anyway, I was like, this isn't enough, but we'll get back to Nighthaunt later, because I didn't think this was enough, and at the moment there's like another kind of glaring issue I have with Nighthaunt, where I'm like, that's concerning. So, see, just for reference though, of the kind of Nighthaunt armies that I've seen, I think this totals to something in the region of probably about 100 to 150 points. And as somebody who played Soulblight when they were like the de facto best army in the game shared with OBR, I can tell you that that wasn't enough then. I don't think it's enough now. Lol? OBR? What? Hello? What is happening here? This army, for my money, this army was already in the short list of best factions in the game. Like, I'm even like the Nagash Kavalos list that just like absolutely crushed people that weren't prepared for it and never seen it before. I don't actually think it's that good, but like that is the kind of army that will go 4-1 very consistently at tournaments, because you'll just floor people that don't know how to like deploy or play against it properly. That not going up is crazy. That army must have like such a high win rate through tournaments. So yeah, and then also like these things getting made cheaper, just kind of, especially Vokmorshan. Vokmorshan has like the NEOBR tag. He's a 2-cast wizard for 170, and he has like a weird little mini Be'lakor upside. Like crazy, absolutely crazy to me, these changes. The Harvester doesn't really matter. The Crawler coming down is actually nice. This is a good model. This is actually a good model. These guys coming down might matter. OBR had this weird thing where like their allegiance abilities are all crap, or not their allegiance abilities, their battle formations are all crap. Maybe now you'll see some army, like with this and these changes and stuff, that you'll be able to squeeze in a unit of Mortek Guard, but I doubt it. And there's no way that Stalkers are going to be as good as just investing in Archai. So I think this is a buff, a small buff, admittedly, but a very confusing buff also. Soulblight, okay, so doesn't matter. Owl, I guess. Doesn't matter. Probably doesn't matter. This model has a really crazy War Scroll spell, but I think it's still just way too expensive for like a foot hero, effectively. This is nice, but I think the Vengalord still sucks compared to what they were, and these I think are actually kind of cute. However, these models coming down in an era where Torgilius has been nerfed the way he has, and again we'll get there later, don't think that's it. This is confusing because these models are better than aren't better than Graveguard. But I sort of get it, because like maybe they're thinking, okay, you're probably only playing 10 Black Knights, in which case we'll put them up 20 so that it's 40, as opposed to, you're probably playing like 40 Graveguards, or maybe even 60, so we'll put them up 10, so it's roughly the same. But like, I don't know, I don't understand. It's crazy that this is how hard Soulblight got hit, because they also got rules changes, by the way, that like got this army. So it's crazy that this is how hard these guys got hit, when like LRL got off as lightly as they did. Nighthaunt got off like these guys got the same level of nerfs as Nighthaunt, I would say. That's wild to me. Yeah, just absolute insanity here. Don't care, sorry. Gits, right. So there's an elephant in the room that I'm just going to address now, because this is the first destruction army we've looked at. So I said that I was going to do the rules and stuff after, right? But Kragnos has changed. Now he only allows you to charge 3d6 in your own charge phase. Okay? So he's 100 points cheaper, but he has lost the ability to 3d6 counter charge on any unit in your army. So let's just let that sink in, right? He's 100 points cheaper, no 3d6 counter charge in your opponent's turn, and I don't know where this matters in Destruction, but considering it's Destruction, it probably does matter somewhere. It is only in your charge phase, so you can't do any weird charges outside of your charge phase. So, Trogs up, don't care. I mean, I feel like these guys going up is sort of similar to, like, Venari models going up, where it's like, okay, these guys crushed bad players. Cool. Okay, Trogs are more expensive now. That's cool. I don't think that it really matters one way or the other to kind of like really high end play. So sure, might matter in a team's environment because there's somewhat of a skew in teams. But yeah, Kragnos coming down I think is a massive buff to Kragnos. Kragnos armies, I think so I was of the opinion that the best unit in Gits, if you take Kragnos out because he's like a destruction model, not a Gits model, best unit in Gits was the Gobapalooza, which has not been changed. And Kragnos has been buffed. So I'm all in on MoonClan being the best Gits build, for sure. I was before already, I thought it was better than Trogs. Now I think it's definitely better than Trogs. Kragnos Gits I think is going to be good. Gobapalooza is insane. Like, you expect to play against 3 of these and just never be able to give commands to units that you care about. It's really fucking annoying. Then... Otherwise, I don't care, really. This is like a nice little buff. This unit's cute in MoonClan armies. Shuta's coming down. Okay, I think Stabas are probably still better. Just because they take the buffs and things in MoonClan better. Okay, Ironjaws. We've already talked about Kragnos. Similarly, this is great for Ironjaws. I think Ironjaws might have a compelling argument for best Kragnos. Giving Kragnos access to 1 Mighty Destroyers is pretty good. That's definitely strong. It's maybe not quite as good as Gits, but there's some powerful stuff that they can do there. So, I don't know, I think this is definitely something to watch. Kragnos and Jaws. Otherwise, I sort of have a similar situation to Khorne and a few other armies where like they haven't really touched your main work units. I think that Gorgrunta's coming down is nice. Rager's coming down is kind of whatever, but Rekka's going to 110 is actually pretty interesting. This is a unit that for 220 points you get 18 wounds and a 5-up, 5-up. There's 6 attacks each, 4s and 3s, Ren 1, damage 1, and they go to Ren 2 against infantry. But in Ironjaws, especially if you're playing Ironjaws with Kragnos, you can take the sub-faction where if you roll an 8, you get plus 1 attack on the... 8 to charge, you get plus 1 attack. And in the Wattern, they get plus 1 attack. So that means that these things can charge in and make 48 attacks for 220 points. On a 5-up, 5-up, and like, the Nurgle player in me knows to respect the 5-up, 5-up. So I'm pretty interested in this unit, I think. It's definitely something there. Also, just having access to like a 100-point-ish unit is really nice for this army, because everything else before was closer to 200 than 100, so it just makes list building nice. Ironjaws, though, still definitely have the problem of like the lowest drop army I can convincingly see Ironjaws ever will be 2, but realistically 3, because I think that you probably just need a War Chanter and a Shaman. And that's just how it is. The fact that the War Chanter doesn't have the head stompa thing is really irritating. I think that would help the army out a lot. Kruleboys, I mean, so these are nice changes, but none of them really to the models that I think are super impactful, except for, obviously, Kragnos. And I think, honestly, I would expect pretty much every Destruction army to just play Kragnos at the moment. He just seems very good. So, yep, good for Kruleboys. They're just going to yeet things at you a little bit faster probably and have a little bit less mass. Cool. I guess also Kragnos gives them a model to consistently do power through with, which they didn't really have before, because realistically you were never risking Sludge Rakers and they're considerably less good in combat than they were in 3rd, and then you probably weren't playing any of the other stuff, so that's nice for them. Ogres, rest in peace here. Waiting to see if these are good. Don't know. I think you're still absolutely going to be playing Kragnos. I suspect that this isn't enough for the monsters. Losing the 5-up ward was really, really harmful, but we'll see. Maybe it's fine. Suns, don't care, shouldn't be an army. Might see Suns with Kragnos, who knows. Regiments of Renown, I'll just skip this. The only thing that I think I really care about here is they didn't nerf Callison Toll, which is crazy. Like the Saviors of Cinderfall, unnerfed, mental. Yep, they'll still be really good. You'll see them a lot in order. And then let's go to the rules changes. Right. So this is just a thing where like you still you need to charge something that you can see. You need to be able to see it when you finish your charge. Cool. Yep, this is a nerf to Amulet of Screams. I mean, this is how Amulet of Screams already worked. It's just this is honestly just a clarification. This is the FAQ section. But basically, Amulet of Screams, I think, is the one that's the most egregious here, where it only does D3 damage once per turn. And they nerfed the Orb of Enchantment, so genuinely, like, just, I'm sorry, Soulblight. I'm so sorry. Okay, this is common sense. I don't care. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. So, no more than one wizard or priest can attempt to summon a manifestation per turn becomes the same, and also you cannot summon a manifestation that was removed from in the same turn, which means that if you unbind your opponent's Soulstream Bridge that's blocking your charge lane, they can't then intervene and put it back down in the exact same place. It means that Teclis can unbind his own shackles automatically and then recast them. This is a good change for the game. This makes manifestations less impactful. This I don't love as a change because I feel like it's too gamey. Like, genuinely, maybe this is like the old War Machine player enemy is like dying a death, I think, because I'm saying this, but I would have liked some kind of lore justification for this, like, mechanic or something, because it just feels really gamey. Like, there's no... Why? You know, why is this a thing? Why did manifestations become easier to banish the more of them they have? Especially because it's like... See, if it was like one wizard controlling all 4 manifestations, it's like, right, okay, they're easier to banish because the wizard is like, you know, holding them on the mortal plane less strongly or whatever, because there's concentration split across 4 manifestations. But if, like... This also works if you have, like, each... You know, you could have, like, Kairos and 3 Lords of Change that are they've all summoned 1 manifestation each, and it's like they're still easier to banish. I don't quite understand it, but I do think it's good for the health of the game. I think that this is going to maybe mean that lores that only have kind of 2 good spells will be good. However, unfortunately, because of the changes in here, I think Morbid Conjuration is still a lore that just only has 2 good spells now. Shackles, I think, are still fine, completely fine. This change obviously hurts them a little bit, but they're a completely fine spell. You'll see later that Maelstrom has died to death, though. Okay, you know, I'm sorry, anytime I'm thinking about, like, the minutiae of faction terrain, the fact that you can be within 3 inches of a piece of faction terrain, or sorry, you can be in combat range of a piece of faction terrain, but not within 3 inches of it and stuff, I don't want to think about these terrain pieces. I don't care, sorry. Okay, you can now use all defense against covering fire. Good change. Obviously, it's a nerf to Sentinels and stuff, but good. For the sake of the game, good. This doesn't matter. Here also doesn't really matter, sorry. Then let's get into the other good stuff, the errata. So let's see what they've changed. Priority target, massive nerf. Absolutely enormous nerf. I think this is going to do 2 things for the sake of the meta. One, I think heroes are going to become even more expensive because I think drops have become even more expensive. So now... Before, say, for example, take my friend Tomasz, his feck list, where we had a very serious conversation about cutting the Gore Warden from his army and putting some stuff in the General's Reg. But before it was like, no, it just makes priority target too good, let's not do that. Now, it's like, okay, it doesn't improve priority target at all. So just chuck them all in there because they get to pick 2 units anyway, so it doesn't matter, right? You're putting something in your General's Reg because now Bodyguard is by far the most powerful rule here. I like that they did this, and they said in their little article that this was like to make it a more compelling choice between Honor Guard, but like Bodyguard is by far the best one now, and it's not even remotely close. So cool, priority target, rest in peace. Don't care because this was a really rubbish role for game balance, to be honest. Whenever shooting is like the most powerful thing that you can be doing in war games, it's just not fun. So hoping that we move into a melee meta, but KO buffs have me nervous, and Tzeentch being really good have me nervous, but at least they're more of a control army than a shooting army. Anyway, Gravetide to 8. Good armies don't care. Maybe makes Morbid Conjuration something that you can only take if you're playing a real caster list. Cool. Maelstrom is now mandatory to explode. I think this probably kills this spell. It makes your other manifestations easier to banish. It gives your opponent a little minigame. It means that you can only summon it under very special circumstances, which might happen. And it's maybe an okay, like, bottom of 1 intervention. But, like, you need to be real careful with this spell now. So, because you can't not blow it up. Purple Sun losing a wild form, fine. Like, honestly, this is... Yep, sounds good. So did Gnashing Jaws. This, I think, is a bit weird, but maybe they were just worried that this would be the next best thing. Rafax. Okay, cool. Neat. Fusiliers. So this is a change that, I'll be honest with you, I don't fully understand. So I think you should speak to some kind of Cities of Sigmar scientist and find out what this actually means. I'm hoping that this hasn't made guns better, but we'll see. This sounds like a buff. It's not core, which I think means that you can like move and then do it. Or retreat and do it? I don't know. This is a big change. This section here. So for some reason they're sort of soft buffing Tzeentch, I think. This, I'm fairly sure that in total this is a buff. So burning before, if you weren't aware, right, it was on a 3-up on the... I'm sorry, on a 2-up on a D3. On a 2-up on a D3, take that many mortals, and on a 1 or 2 it goes out, right? And you didn't want burning to go out, because when burning went out, and I'll show you. So by far the kind of strongest Tzeentch sub-faction, I think, is this one, where subtract 1 from wound rolls for attacks made by burning enemy units, right? So here, you didn't want the burning to go out, and you would often, because all abilities are optional unless explicitly stated otherwise, you would just not roll, right? It meant that the play pattern was, just don't roll it, and keep the -1 to wound on the unit, because that's way more impactful. Unless it was like a hero or a monster or something on like a couple wounds, usually you would just leave burning on and not roll it, right? So I like this change for that reason, because now it means the play pattern is, actually use your rules. That's cool. They have attached a nerf alongside it, which I think is good. So the nerf here is basically if any healing happens to units with burning, it removes burning. Before, it was very specific. If a burning enemy unit uses an ability that would heal or return slain models to it, instead of healing or returning slain models, that unit no longer has the burning keyword. So what that means is you would only be able to remove burning if the unit had some way of healing itself, using its own ability. So generally this was rally. However, I have heard people argue that the unit isn't using rally, it's the player, but like let's not go there. Generally this meant rally, and some war scrolls, like horrors and Feck, for example, heal themselves on their war scroll. But it meant that if you had like a spell or a prayer or something that healed D3 to a model in your army, or like the Emerald Lifeswarm or whatever, you couldn't use those abilities to remove it from other units, because it's if the burning unit used an ability. So they've changed that. Now, if anything heals them, they lose burning, which is good. It still stops recursion, which is also very powerful. So I think that this is a net buff to Tzeentch, and I'm a bit concerned that Tzeentch are going to be the best army in the game now, but we'll see. Okay, I mean, I think this is a buff to Tzeentch, but it's also on a lore that nobody takes, so whatever. This is just like a clarification, doesn't matter. This is a straight buff to Burning Sigil, and I think that with this buff in mind, you may actually see Burning Sigil, or the Tzeentch lore in Tzeentch. The spellbook isn't bad. It basically gives you +2 to cast on your important casts, which is nice. One of the really important things that you can do with that is it means that Kairos needs to roll a 3 or more to kind of get his War Scroll spell off, which is pretty impactful, or a 2 or more if he's near some, what do you call it, some place of power, but I don't know, we'll see. That lore might just not be better than Morbid Conjuration. However, actually that reminds me, one of the things that I want to talk about, for my money, right, if I had been told that they're nerfing Morbid Conjuration, I would have said the best lore afterwards would definitely be Forbidden Power for kind of general use, because Forbidden Power is 30 wins with a 4-up save. However, the main use of those 30 wins with a 4-up save isn't really any kind of utility or damage, it's just blocking space, because the bases in Forbidden Power are massive. If you don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, Forbidden Power is the one with... nope, not that one, that is Ether Rot Machineries. Forbidden Power is the one with Bridge, Horrorghast, Shards, right? So, the change to Unbinding, Banishing Manifestations, where you get +1 for each extra one on the table, actually is quite a substantial nerf to these models, because the whole point of them is that you would put out a bunch of bases and deny space. Even if you just put out the Soulscream Bridge and Shards of Valgar, it means that your opponent's gone from like favored coin flip to remove them on a 7 to like they are likely to remove them, and now you also can't rebanish them in the same turn. So I actually think that this, as crazy as this sounds, I think this lore got hit harder by this update than Morbid Conjuration, unless you very specifically can, have interactions that are good with the Soul Screen Bridge. Like, for example, say you had a model that gave everything wholly within 12 of that model 3d6 to charge, and you could put models through the Soul Screen Bridge with it, hypothetically. Sorry, I don't know why I opened Oryx there. That was a mistake. I meant to click on this. Yeah, so I think that we might see Burning Sigil, or the Tzeentch lore in Tzeentch, but it's probably still Morbid Conjuration. But this is powerful. This is a very powerful scroll now. Like, this is a good spell. It's just unreliable, which, especially in Tzeentch, unreliable isn't great. One of the reasons Tzeentch are so powerful is that they are reliable, so, yeah. Okay. This thing it doesn't matter. This thing, like, cool. Neat. Okay. Cool. And, like I said, Kragnos is only in your charge phase now. This is a buff to Slaanesh, and it's going to be really, really tilting when, like, you play against a Slaanesh player and all their thing does is do damage to you. So this is changing it from you guaranteed get the 6, but on a 1 or 2 you take D3 mortals. It's on a 1 or 2 you don't get the 6 anymore. That is to say that you spend the dice, but your roll is not replaced. You just take D3. So that's kind of rough. Sorry, to be clear, you don't get the 6 and you get the 1 or the 2 that you've rolled. So if you're like, okay, I'm going to, like, go for the 8-inch charge because you've given me 2 temptation dice, and I'm just going to make it a 12, and then you roll like a 1 or a 2 on both dice, or even just a 1 on one of those dice and like a 6 on the other one. It's like, okay, well, that sucks. So definitely a buff to Slaanesh, but it kind of means that, like, I feel like now you will just give your opponents these all the time, because anything, like, you can't do anything important with temptation dice anymore. I think it's not reliable enough. Okay, so I was already of the opinion that Venari were a trap. I think that the best way to build Lumineth is take Hurricane and then take a unit of Sentinels and just give it Power of Hish every turn, because it's by far the best beneficiary of Power of Hish consistently turn by turn because of how Covering Fire works. And Shining Company, like the models that you need to take Shining Company, the only good Venari unit other than the Sentinels was probably Dawn Riders, but even then I didn't like how much they needed to be babysat, and playing them in the same army as Sentinels meant that you had like 2 things that you needed to babysit, and you really didn't want your Dawn Riders getting tagged, and you needed stuff to screen them with, and then they, if you played like Sentinels and Dawn Riders, they fought for Power of Fish and blah 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 blah. Okay, so they've got a Shining Company to now be like really not strong. I mean, it's not bad, right? It's like fine, but I think that these are already the models that weren't the problem in Lumineth, so okay, this is a confusing change. The armies that I've been playing, this literally doesn't affect them at all. And I would argue, obviously I'm biased, but I would argue that the armies I've been playing are the best LRL armies, so neat. So, yep, cool clarification, don't care. So, also don't care. This is just making sure that you can't teleport out of the shrine and cause weird stuff. This is a nice change to Nurgle. Nice little buff. On a 3-up you get to keep your diseases around, and it's a 9-inch range as well, not 7, so love to see that. Cool. This here is, I mean, Miasma of Pestilence is like a sad shadow of what it used to be. It used to be an absolute death sentence to things, so sad to see that, but yep, cool. Okay, what else do we have? Did we not already see? Oh, Kragnos is listed in every destruction faction. Okay. Nighthaunt. Okay, so this is a really, really silly change. Do I have Nighthaunt open? Yep, sure do. So, they've changed this, but they've forgotten to add once per turn. So now there's nothing stopping you from just selecting every unit in your army to have retreat in charge or run in charge. I mean, this is pretty obviously like I think the intention here is obvious. They're just idiots and really bad at writing rules. So hopefully we get like an emergency FAQ. If we have to play through another like 4 months or whatever of Nighthaunt running, charging, retreating, charging all the time, and they're still just like the de facto best army in the game, I might just quit until the next War Scroll. We'll see. Don't care. Thank God. This was such a stupid rule, so I think we all saw this coming, but they're still probably quite strong. Just for getting tactics and things. This is the same kind of clarification for terrain that all the other terrains have been getting. Already talked about Kragnos. This is a nice change for Ironjaws. This means that you can WA multiple times in the game, which means that I think that this is like doubling down on making Kragnos just the best thing in Ironjaws, where like you can wham multiple times. You can take the subfaction where when you roll an 8 to charge, you get +1 attack, and there's obvious synergy there because you're just like you're all inning on your charges being really, really powerful. And with Mighty Destroyers, your army is actually really quite hard to tag because you can often tag the stuff that would tag you. And also, it's not like anything really wants to... It's like, okay, you've tagged my unit of 10 brutes so that they're not charging, but now my unit of brutes is getting to fight twice, and unless you're a similarly fighty army that can like brawl with Ironjaws, it's probably not a great trade. I know that like as a Lumineth player, for example, I have no interest in tagging brutes, unless I can only tag a couple of them, and even then it's risky. So yeah, I think Ironjaws are sleeper like going to be quite good. Okay, neat. Same change as Doc, I think. Here, this is cool. Control score is sure a mechanic that exists in AOS. Cool. Gargants shouldn't be an army in the game. Convince me otherwise. This used to be unlimited range. You used to just be able to pick a hero in combat. It didn't need to be in combat with a unit. So you would just, your opponent would charge with like a hero anywhere on the table and you'd give it fight last. That was really funny. They've cottoned on, but if you'll remember, they also have clarified that Amulet of Screams is bad. So now there are no good artifacts in Soulblight, so rest in peace. This is a massive nerf to Turgilius. I love that they were like, yeah, we're going to nerf like your, the rule that is the reason that people take you, but also we're going to nerf the cool little upside that you get too, just so that like nobody ever picks you for any reason ever. Did they... I want to go check this. Did they also nerf his... death will be closer to the bottom. Did they also nerf his points cost? No. At the very least, his points cost didn't get nerfed, but, Soulblight, rest in peace. No pun intended. Like, just... Yeah, it's just sad to see, honestly. Stormcast. I think this is the same kind of thing, where it's teleporting abilities, losing core wording. Praetors can pick the thing in reserve. I think that's the change there. Then Sylvaneth changes, right? Okay, so these are pretty relevant. So I think the change here is the 24. I think this used to be 18. Actually, maybe it even used to be 12. Do we have Sylvaneth open? No. One sec. So order Sylvaneth. I think that's the change here. Tree song. Yeah, it was 18, it's now 24. So obviously that's a really nice change, but the real meat and potatoes of the change here is okay, so this Alariel change, whatever, Alariel's the best model in the faction. I think that the change is the 9. I think that's the change. I think this used to be 6. I mean, we can check, right? We've already got Sylvaneth open. Let's go on a journey together, right? Oh no, it's already 9. Okay, so what's actually changed here? Oh, it's 8. It was 8 damage points, now 6. Okay. Cool. Sure. That matters when you can heal Alariel as much as you can. But okay, so the bit that I'm excited for Sylvaneth players is this, right? So for every extra one you increase the range. I believe that this isn't how this works. Is this... Wait, that's the end of the spell. No, it's not the end of the spell. That's the end of the spell. This is the Wildwood. Yeah, this just wasn't a thing, right? It was just 2 extra health, yeah. So instead of 2 extra health, it's now 2 extra health and an extra 3 inches of range. So if you've got the big one, that means like the one that you'll probably deploy in your deployment zone, that's 12 inches instead of 6 now, which is such a huge change. Like I'm sure I don't need to explain pi r squared to people, but like, the doubling that distance is a considerably larger increase than like in the area than doubling it, right? So huge, massive buff, I think, there for Sylvaneth. Will it be enough to save them? Dunno. We'll find out. I think Belthanos got nerfed, but that's the only model, as far as I know, in the kind of meta build that got nerfed. So yeah, and I believe that that's everything. So, kind of wrap up final thoughts. I think Tzeentch are probably the best army in the game, and if it's not Tzeentch, my money would be on Lumineth, OBR, Gits. Sleeper kind of things that I might see come out of the woodwork and actually perform really, really well. Probably, I think Nurgle, Skaven, for sure. I think Seraphon, like, I think they were already in the kind of A tier of armies, but now they've kind of gotten like, I think a little tweak up. So we might see Seraphon, like people, we may just see more representation of Seraphon. I think they were kind of already there. I think Iron Jaws look good as well, and sad as I am to say it, I think we might see KO come out. Those are some pretty encompassing points reductions. Is there anything in here I'm sad about? They didn't fix terrain. That sucks. You can still obscure a Gargant. That's dumb. Otherwise, no. I think that's pretty much it. So, hopefully this has been somewhat informative. Let me know if there's anything you disagree with in the comments. I'm keen to discuss this with a lot of people over coming weeks. I'll maybe post another video in like a couple days or like a week or so of, or maybe even just like a couple weeks and be like, right, let's see what the actual impact of the battle scroll was. What are we thinking now? You know, what's coming out? What are people playing? And maybe I'll do like a hot take tier list thing. You know, best armies post battle scroll, clickbait the shit out of it, and then be like, right, let's see how this does in like 3 months' time or something, right? You know, next battle scroll, let's see how it is. But yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching.